Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope everybody is safe and healthy today. If you're watching this at a later date, I am recording this right in the midst of the scare about the coronavirus, the COVID-19, the Wu flu, whatever you're calling it in your locale. So I'm trying to stay at home. I've got asthma, so it would probably be a bad thing for me to get that. Normally I don't get very sick, but with asthma and the way this thing is attacking people, I'm thinking I'm probably better off staying at home. So what am I doing while I'm home? Well, I can do some teleconferencing type work with people, but mostly I'm going to be doing YouTube videos and work around the house. So today's little video is this. If you haven't seen it before, this is my Daily Driver coffee cup. It is a double insulated low-ball stainless steel cup with this shell that I made. This shell was originally from Commando Design, but he had a lot of greebling on it that I didn't like and wasn't comfortable to hold, so I remixed it. You can find it on my YouTube channel. Now, the problem today is the lid is cracked right down the middle, and about the only thing holding it together is the rubber seal. And if I flexed it much, oops, wrong end, if I flexed it much, it would break completely. So I want to make a new one. This thing has some interesting features in it. It's got a slot, obviously, to drink out of. It's got a bleed hole. It has this little tab. Oh, I'm sorry. It has this little tab to lift it out of. That's what I get for chugging Mountain Dew while I'm home, right? It's got this little tab to lift it out of, but I don't like it because it makes you lift it like that. And I don't know if that's why it cracked or not. It's got a nice slot all the way around for that don't know if that helped or not, for that seal. And this top surface is slanted down toward the drink hole. For now, I'm going to leave that out, even though I think I know how I would do that. I'm going to leave it out because I really don't think it needs to be there. And I think to make up for this tab, I'm just going to make this entire upper lip just enough bigger so that you can grasp it around the cup and wiggle it out. So that's my goal for today. Let's get over to Fusion. And as always, first thing you do when you're going to do something like this is you take measurements off it and you go into the parameters in Fusion and you add these in. Now, they're probably not going to be right, but at least when you design it that way, if something turns out to be the wrong size, you just go back and change the parameter. You don't have to dig through your part looking for all the sizes and then change everything that changed. So that makes it a lot easier. Do that first. And so let's go over to Fusion and let's do this. Okay, so here we are in Fusion 360, and my original intent for making this video was to make it with me having not made this part before, so you could see some of the back and forth and mistakes I make and things I do. But for some reason I was just having a lot of problems making this, and the video was going to wind up being stupidly long, and I didn't think anybody would want to see that. So I did wind up designing this while I was not recording it, and I'm going to walk you through the steps of it. And while I really don't think anybody wants to see me make an hour-and-a-half video of screwing up, I know some other YouTubers like Big Clive. He screws stuff up and posts it anyway, and everybody seems to love it. So, but I don't know that I think that's correct for a tutorial video. If you want to see all the screw-ups, let me know in the comment section below. So first thing I'm going to do, and this is not going to be an absolute beginner video, because I've done one of those since the new interface. I'm assuming right off the bat that you've got Fusion installed and you at least know how to navigate around in it and make circles and things like that. So let's start off by creating a sketch. I like this bottom plane because I like my part to come out the way I want it arranged on the printer. So I'm going to select that bottom plane and we're going to start with a circle. And oh, I just also want to mention that I have, if I go in here to modify and change parameters, I have all the parameters I need, and I might even have more than I need. And I measure these originally, and I put in all the ones I think I'll need, and then as I realize ones are missing, I'll add to it, or I'll make changes, or I'll delete the ones I think I don't need or I accidentally made twice. So, create a center diameter circle, and we're going to come out, and this is going to be something about not width, what did I call this? Oh, I called it OD something. OD main, that's what it's called. Geez, you wouldn't know I've done this 3 or 4 times already. OD main, I was driving me nuts yesterday. Really, things were happening. I'm going to myself, that worked day before yesterday. Why isn't it working today? Anyway, some of it I think is just me. I never did figure it out. But anyway, then I switched the ways I was doing something. So OD main, and then we're going to extrude this. So Q to press, pull, or E to extrude. I have to turn my sketches on so I can see that. And we're going to extrude this up. And I think I called this height full, or height no lip. Height no lip, that's what I called it. And enter. And I still have some parameters in there that I don't think I'm using. So I'm going to clear that up a little bit before I post this to Thingiverse. So now I want to make that top lip. And to do that, I'm going to create a sketch on this surface. And it's going to be another center diameter circle. And this is going to be called something to do about the lip. LIP OD top lip. That's what I want. And enter. And now one of the mistakes I was making on my original design of this, which unfortunately you guys didn't get to see, or fortunately because you think I'm a dummy and had never done this before, is I was extruding this lip straight up. But the problem is that gave me no real attachment at the boundary since I'm going to shell it. So, and I'll show you what I mean later on. So what I want to do is I want to hit Q to press pull. I want to extrude this, but I want to extrude it in both directions. So I'm going to come over to direction, and I'm going to say 2 sides. And I want to extrude this up. You know, I could probably do symmetric, couldn't I? I was doing 2 sides, and I was putting my distance in both sides. Let's try symmetric, because I didn't do that last time. Let's find another way to screw up that I'll have to go back and fix later. So the distance, and I called this distance something to do with the lip, I think. OD seal, bleed hole, slot length, fillet. I thought I called it something to do with the lip. Height no lip, thickness lip, there it is, thickness lip, and it should go symmetric on both sides. And did it do it? Oh my gosh, it did it. Before, I just used both sides and I had to put the distance in, the parameter in for each side, but this works even better. So we're going to say okay, and now there's our lip. This is pretty much our basic part, but of course, this isn't going to work. We have to add some features to it. So the first feature I'm going to add to it is I'm going to shell the bottom of it. So I'm going to come to, I think it's modify and shell, and I'm going to click this bottom surface, and this is going to be another thickness, I think. No, it's not. What did I call this? What did I call this? I thought I called it thickness. Let's go look real quick. Modify and change parameters. I'll have to create the shell command again, but that's okay. So what did I call this? What did I call this? I thought I had a size in for this, didn't I? Thickness main. That's what it is. Thickness main. So let's do that again. Modify. You think I've done this so many times I'd remember what I called all these parameters, but I just don't. So we're going to shell. We're going to shell the bottom. I should have done thickness. If I had typed in thickness, I would have found it. Thickness main. And we're going to enter on that. And now here again, we're getting closer and closer, aren't we? So the next thing I want to do is I want to put that groove in it for that seal that goes all the way around. And this is where I was making one of my original mistakes. I could have swore up, down, left, and right that I'd use the revolve command to cut grooves in a circular surface before. But no matter how many times I tried it the other day, I could not get it to cut that groove around without being offset one way or the other. I tried multiple different ways, and finally I gave up, and I did it in a way which how I first, way back when, found out how to cut these kind of grooves. So that's what we're going to do again. Honestly, it might even be easier. The revolve command is easier in some ways, but for this simple one, we're going to do it this way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to construct an offset plane.
And now it asks me the plane I want to offset. I want to offset this bottom plane, and it asks me the distance I want to offset it, and I have a parameter in for that. And that parameter, I think, is called distance to seal. It is. This is the distance to where, from the bottom, it touches the seal. And I added a little bit extra so the seal doesn't have to be forced in place. So distance to seal. And okay, so now I have that offset parameter. Now what I want to do, and I got to be careful, and you'll see that parameter is just under the bottom face of this by, I don't know, I think it's 4 or 5 millimeters, something like that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a sketch on that plane. You got to kind of be careful here to make sure you get that one and not that one. That was one of my mistakes the other day, and that was a pretty obvious one. So we're going to create a sketch on this plane, and again, you can see the sketch is a few millimeters, 4 or 5 millimeters under the surface. And now we're going to create 2 circles. 2 center diameter circles. And this first circle is going to be OD main. And enter. And now the next circle is going to be, this one is going to be something about the seal. OD seal, right there. I made them all, I made all the ODs start with OD because I knew absolutely without a shadow of a doubt I was not going to get the OD correct to fit into the cup. So, and I didn't. In fact, I didn't twice. So that way that let me come back into my parameter list and very easily change everything that was OD. I could move all the ODs up or down by 1 or 2 millimeters or whatever. I got unlucky on this part, I'm telling you. I've made stuff more complex than this and got lucky, and it was done on the first or second try. This one took me like 5, and it was just an exercise in frustration. So now what I want to do is I want to extrude that little bit of thing I just created, but you're going to see it's bloody hard to get to it, to get it highlighted, to do an extrude. So what I do here is I just temporarily hide the body. So I come over to bodies, and I click on the eyeball. Now my body is hidden. Now I can click on my, there we go. I can click on that. Now, in order, this is going to be a cut, not a new body. So in order for there to be something to cut in, I have to turn the body back on. Otherwise, Fusion will tell me it couldn't find anything to cut. So I am now going to hit Q to press pull, and it's going to go in the correct direction. And I have a parameter for this too, and this is called width seal, and we're going to click on that, and it said as a cut. We're going to say okay, and there now is that square groove for our rectangular seal to go in. Seal isn't a complete rectangle. Its sides and its back face are square, but its front has a taper with a couple of ridges in it, designed to, to seal the liquid in and keep it in, but not make it drag really hard. So there's that. Boy, we're coming right along. This time we're working really good. So the next thing we want to do after the seal groove is we need something to drink out of, right? And after I've done this a few times, the original one, this surface here is slanted at an angle toward the drinking hole. And I've thought of a way to do that, but I don't really know if I think it's going to be necessary. So I'm going to do it without it first, and if it turns out that it sucks and it really does need to be slanted so the liquid runs back down, any spillage here runs back down into the hole, we'll come back and we'll have another video and I'll show you how to do that. Or at least I'll show you how I think I can do it that'll work. I haven't tried it yet. So anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to create a sketch on this surface. And you know what I want to do? I want to put a construction line in, and I'm going to click up here on my box in the upper right. I'm going to click top so I can get squared directly on the top. I'm going to put a construction line in because that just makes it easier for me. So I'm going to hit L on the keyboard for a line. And my line is, no matter what I do, my line will never want to lock into the center for me. So I'm just going to make it out here. I'm going to make sure it's 90 degrees. I'm going to hit escape to get rid of the line tool. Now, notice how it bisects my geometry. I don't want it doing that. So I'm going to click on it to highlight it, and I'm going to come over to my sketch palette, and I'm going to click construction. That turns it into a line. The only existence for this line is to make it easier for me to center things and get them where I want them. You'll see it no longer bisects my geometry, but I do want it directly in the center. So I'm going to click on it once more to highlight it, make sure I have it highlighted. Do I? Sometimes with these construction lines, it's hard to tell. And I'm going to click up here, coincident, and I'm going to make it coincident with the center. And there it is. You'll notice it's no longer blue, it's black, which means it's locked into the center. Now let's make some holes. I'm going to hit escape to get rid of any of the tools I have I'm still using, and I am going to draw a center circle. And I'm going to draw it right here, and I have parameters in for that too, I believe. And that should be called bleed hole, because it's my air bleed. I don't know if that needs to be there or not, but if you want to chug coffee out of what's going to be the drinking hole, there has to be some way to get air in or it won't work. And I have a dimension for it for distance. So I am going to hit D for dimension, and I'm going to dimension this to the center. Oops, did I get it? Oops, let's hit escape a couple times. D for dimension. I don't need to be there, and I need to be on the center. And I called this bleed hole distance. There it is right there. I should have put a bleed in the front, but there's only one round hole in it. And enter. And now I need a slot down here. And you know what? I tried to get fancy and draw a circular slot, and it just turned out to be so fiddly that I just dropped it, because honestly I don't think it's necessary. So I hit escape to get rid of my dimension tool, and I'm just going to create a regular slot down there. So we're going to come here to slot, and we're going to click center point slot, and I'm going to be locked into my center point here. And I have some dimensions for this too. I want to be at 180 degrees, obviously. Now when you make a slot, initially you only get two parameters when you create it. You only get the degree of offset from flat or sideway vertical, horizontal or vertical, and then you get the distance out. Now you can type the distance out here. We can do that. You do really get them. I just don't feel like, it doesn't feel like the way I want them. So anyway, we're going to call this something to do with slot length. And tab. See, you can't, I don't know, it just doesn't work the way I think it should, that's all. So we have to click now, and those go away. And now we're going to come out, and actually my slot width wanted to be half of that, didn't it? Yes, it did. Okay, so over here we're going to put slot width. Is that right? I think that's right. So now my slot length, let's go up here, modify, change parameters. My slot length needs to be half that. I've got it set at 19 because when I originally did it, I dimensioned it, the entire width of it, after the fact. So 19, what's half of 19? Half of 19 is 9.5, right? Is that right? Is that right? 9.5? Sure it is. 9.5. I tell you what, this thing had me so turned around the other day that I didn't know whether I was coming or going. And it's strange because it's simple. I've done a bunch of these basic style shapes with grooves and slots and holes in them, and I've never had the kind of trouble I had with this one. Okay, so this is actually the slot now I wanted. We just now have to locate it. So I'm going to go D to dimension, and I'm going to come to my slot center, and then I'm going to come up to here, and let's call this, I called this something to do with slot. Slot length, slot width, fillet slot, no, distance. I didn't, what did I call it? Distance to seal, hole distance. Did I not put a parameter in for that? I thought I did. Let's come up and look. Change parameters. I thought for sure I put a slot hole distance, distance to seal, fillet slot. I didn't. So you know what? Let's put one in. I forget what it's supposed to be, but let's look. No, not. Let's just guess. I think it was 8. So let's put one in. Let's oops, plus to add a parameter, we're going to call this slot distance. Let's call it 8 and see how it works. I forget what I originally had it be, but that's okay. All right, so it gave me a distance. Let's go in here and let's call it slot distance. And enter. And that's way wrong. So, oh, you know what it was? It was the same as this one. Ha ha ha. Oh, you know what? That's why I didn't make two, because they were exactly the same. I was going to use the same one for both. You see, boy, how easy and quickly you forget when you do this stuff, especially when things don't go right, you get confused and turned around. So let's go back to change parameters. Let's get rid of this one. I don't want it there. I can't delete it. Okay, I have to remove it from here first. There we go. It's gone out of there. Now we can go modify, change parameters, and now we can get slot distance out of there. There we go. Okay. So yeah, the distance from center to the slot was the same as the distance from center to the bleed hole. And that's why I did not make a separate parameter. I probably should have, but I didn't. So we're going to go distance, hole distance. And enter. And there we go. Okay, now I need to extrude these two. I'm telling you, no matter how much you prepare for this, you still forget stuff and can't get it right. And I'd like to say it's because of my advancing age, but you know what? I was like this when I was 32, so it doesn't really matter. So Q to press pull. We're going to press pull that one, and we're going to press pull that one, and these want to be cuts. So we are going to say we are going to make the distance to an object, and the object is going to be this bottom surface. And that will cut them all the way through. I can change that surface to any thickness I want, and this cut will always be all the way through. I could use all too, but sometimes I've gotten in trouble with all when there was another surface down here, and I only wanted it cutting through the top one. So I tend to like to object better than all. So okay to that, and there we have our basic cup lid. Really all we got to do is put fillets in it and print it. So let's put the fillets in. So we're going to click on fillet. Let's start with this bottom fillet, and this one's just going to make it easier to go into the cup, and I called this fillet bottom. And if I remember right, it was 2 millimeters. And there's the fillet. That's just going to make it easier to start it into the cup. And it really, honestly, doesn't need to be there because the cup is rounded at the top. But anyway, I like fillet, so I'm putting it in here. And the only other fillet I need is this one here. So we're going to do fillet again because I want to give this some facility for liquids to come back in here. So I'm going to fillet this, and I have a parameter of this too, fillet slot. Pretty sure it was 4 millimeters. And okay. And there is our top fillet. Here is our completed part. And I have printed this, so I know that it prints. The only thing about it that bugs me is this little bit of surface right here, and I could probably find a way to press pull that through, but honestly, is it really going to make a difference? I'm having trouble thinking that it will, but we're going to find out. If it does make a difference, by then I'll know also if I need to slant this entire surface here. So let's go ahead and print this. I'm going to save this. We're going to say save as STL. We're going to say okay to that. And coffee cup lid YT version 1 on my desktop is okay. Let's click save. And we'll minimize Fusion. We'll find it here. Let's open it in Cura. It should open the way I want it printed. Now, some of you may disagree with how I'm printing this. I tried printing it the other way first, with the top of it down. That makes for less support, but it gives me my worst looking surface on the top. And I kind of didn't like that. I kind of wanted my best looking surface on the top. So I went ahead and I flipped it over the way you saw it being created there in Fusion. And you know what? It came out fine. Now I printed this on the Alpha YZ20 simply because that's where my orange filament was already loaded. I could have printed this on any other printer I have. If I decide that PLA isn't the proper filament for this, it may wind up going over onto the enclosed Ender 3 and be made out of ABS, or I may make it out of PETG on any of the printers. I've got black PETG, and you know what, black is probably going to be better than orange or yellow when it comes to drinking coffee through it, because the coffee is certainly going to get in and stain the porous PLA. But here's what it looks like. This is how I'm going to print it. I need support under the bottom, I need support for the groove, and I need support for the lip. And I'm printing this, since this is still pretty much just a proof of concept for me, I'm printing it at 0.32 layer height, 0.5 line width. I use 0.5 line width anyway on a lot of this stuff, because that way I can get my wall thickness at 1 with a 2-line wall count and not worry about having infill and a bunch of tiny little zigzags all the way around, plus all the time it takes. So 3 top and bottom layers, 0.96 top and bottom thickness. What else do I got here? 50 infill. 50 is way too much for this. Let's make it 30. Grid is fine. 210 print temperature, 50 bed, flow at 160 print speed, 40 millimeters per second top and bottom layer. I like my print acceleration and my print jerk turned down, because I don't really see, I don't gain enough speed with this acceleration and jerk cranked up, and it's caused me some layer shifting problems in the past. Retraction is on, and for PLA it's all the standard settings. Print cooling is on at layer 2 and up. Support is on everywhere with a 50 support angle. Now, sorry about that. No, I'm not sick. I just have allergies and asthma. And you might want to play with this, with some of the support things in this, so that the lines on this, you might want to change the support so the support is a zigzag and just not a grid. Anyway, I'm not going to right now, because again, this is just a proof of concept, and I may actually use it for a while. In fact, I'm sure I will. Everything else is turned on. Let's click slice. Or everything else, I should say, is turned off. 2 hour and 15 minute print. Let's preview it real quick. Make sure nothing weird is going on in it. And you can see the support under the bottom. And I do have the support turned into a back and forth grid. And the lines are going back and forth across it, mostly the way I think I'll get the kind of line support I want. So anyway, let's take a look at it. You can see that my walls have no infill between the walls. That drives me crazy. I know I'm not saying that right, but nonetheless, I'm hoping you all know what I mean. All right, so that's it. It looks good. I'm happy with it. We're going to go ahead and print this, and I have actually already printed it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what I have printed.
All right, we're back. We got this thing printed, and before I show it to you, just want to show you that, you know, I make mistakes too. We all make mistakes. Sometimes I get lucky and the first one I design will work, and sometimes, like this one, I get unlucky and I'm going to print 5 or 6 of them, although I think I'm only at 5 on this one. Anyway, that's that. Let's get these out of the way. One thing I did appreciate with this one is the support came out really easy, just popped right out. Always love it when that happens. I hate fighting to get support out. So here is the one which I think is going to work. As you can see, I got a really nice top surface. There's my filleted drink hole, my little bleed hole. There is my slot for the seal. It's all chamfered nicely. You can see under here where the support was, it's a little bit rough, and that's why I wanted it printed like this, even though it took extra support material and probably an extra, 15-20 minutes to print that support, instead of printing it like that, where I would not have needed anywhere near as much support. Anyway, let's put the seal on it. Let's see how it fits and works. I haven't completely cleaned that seal ring up yet, so it's probably not fitting in, as seal is probably not fitting in as deep and as nice as it can, but there it is. Let's get the cup out up here, and Oh, there we go, down. That took a little bit more pressure than I would have liked. But if I go in and clean that seal ring up, I think that will get easier. It certainly isn't going to come off, that's for sure. Probably drop it, and you'll see it's just enough bigger than the cup itself that you can just grab it and wiggle it out without a problem. So that's it. I'm going to try it for a week or two, and I'll see if I think I really need to slant that. There is a little lip there to keep liquids that splosh up from going all over, although I drive a Jeep, so that's pretty much impossible. But if I decide I need that downward slant toward the drink hole, we'll come back and we'll figure out a way to do that. I don't think it's going to be that tough if I have to, but there it is. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit notifications, and hope you all stay safe and healthy. Talk to you later. Bye for now.